Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai, as we are in for our final series of the day here in sunny China. I say sunny, but it's actually pouring it down outside.
There's like lightning and stuff.
There is lightning. There's a lot. It's a tropical rainstorm, as of course we have. What? What's so funny? Anyway, of course, it is our next series up and coming. It will be Hydra going up against EnDerr, a classic David versus Goliath here in Hydra versus EnDerr. And I don't know if many people are expecting this to go EnDerr's way, but let's see how he can put up a fight.
He shouldn't be underestimated. He comes from a region where it used to be all about, you know, the pigs, Iagas, Petraeus, and all these guys, but nowadays he's turned the tables. You know?
That's true. It's definitely not about the pigs anymore, let's be honest.
No.
He still shows up at these tournaments, but not as a player.
As you so aptly called him, Piggly Wiggly has just moved on to bigger and better things. He's casting us with us now. He's making the new Mega Daily of StarCraft. He's saving esports in his own magical way.
I want him to do the Pig Daily from China.
One VOD at a time.
Yeah, I want him to do the Pig Daily from China as well. Tell us about China. Tell us about how hot it is.
I was waiting for his tutorial on catching cabs out of the convention center.
Takes at least 2 hours. He loves it. Look at him. Anyway, this is, of course, EnDerr going to be making his way to the booth now. Of course, will be our David in this David versus Goliath. Of course, over to the other side, we have Hydra, very well documented player, and has taken to the Western scene like a duck to water, Nathanius.
I guess they do like to go on
Just
water.
roll with this.
What is? Look.
You know what? I'd rather talk about ducks on water being from the countryside because I know more about that than ZvZ, so that's fine. That's fine. They got that special oil that keeps the feathers from getting wet so they can stay afloat. They don't overheat, you know? Did you know that?
They have glial reconstitution
Did
for
you
like
know that?
floating on the lake.
Yes.
They have special. Did you know that ducks and swans and geese have the special glands that just cover themselves
Okay,
with oil just so they don't get wet?
Did you know they feed swans burgers so they float better?
I didn't know that.
I'm just making it up. It's fine. I'm sorry. All right.
Let's get back on ZvZ here. I tried to talk a little bit to EnDerr about, you know, if he was confident or something. And at first he said easy. And then he looked at me. I was like, easy to go home. So I don't think he's that confident here going up against Hydra. So we'll see. Hopefully he can pull some good games.
I like it.
That's pretty fair. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, Hydra is just like Hydra's going to the global playoffs pretty much at the end of the year. He's got all the points in the bank that he needs.
He's going to have a difficult match, most likely against Neve in round 2 if he advances to that, but he's going to be the massive favorite here against a player from the Philippines that we haven't seen. Actually, you know, I mentioned how EnDerr started qualifying more and more for these tournaments. I don't think it's the first one. I think he might have qualified, maybe it was for Valencia, but couldn't quite go, maybe visa issues or something. So here is actually the first time in a while that we see him go to an overseas tournament, and hopefully he can put up a good showing, even though it's going to be hard.
As outside of qualifiers, the last time we saw him on a properly international stage was like at the start of 2015, where it was WCS Challenger, never mind anything else. And even there, kind of placed through 33rd to 64th, so didn't really have the best of showings at all. But that being said, I kind of want to flip gears a little bit and talk about Hydra. Is Hydra living up to your expectations thus far as a Korean playing in the WCS system? Don't you expect him to be gaining the championships? Don't you expect him to really be at the very tip top?
He was at first. When he and Polt were meeting in the finals of, you know, WCS finals, it made sense. They were the Korean guys, you know, like the big names that were always going to do well. But as of late, he struggled a lot more. Obviously, you know, meeting Neve in tournaments hasn't helped him one bit, but he's not playing, I think, generally speaking, as well as he's used to. He's not as dominant in the outside of Korea region.
I think it really shows the impact of the changes that were made to the WCS system going into this year for players that were looking for motivation outside of Korea. You know, you have guys like this that are. Did you want to say something?
No, sorry, that was the greatest name of all time. Do you see EnDerr's name?
I can't say it.
That was like Caviar, Napoleon, something.
Okay, I'm American. I definitely can't pronounce it.
Caviar, Napoleon, and Marquez. Campado?
Marquez. I'm pretty sure it says Marquez.
Marquez? Okay.
No?
All right. I don't know. Anyway,
so
you were talking.
Anyway, you know, the thing that's so cool is that a lot of these players, they finally really have, like, you go into a tournament and you know that it's like, okay, beating Hydra or Polt, the odds of playing more than one of them to get to the finals are so slim that all of your motivation comes out of just being able to take down one of those guys. And for the most part, you're just playing against the other dudes you hit on ladder. And I feel like that has just pushed these players to work so much more hard to get to that level where they can beat them. that, you know, we have to ask ourselves, like, has players like Hydra and Polt fallen off, or have these other guys just stepped up so much? Because when we talk about tournaments, we no
what
longer.
What do you think between these two?
I think that the foreign players have stepped up. Like, if you look at this,
it seems that way.
You go into a
both,
tournament.
though,
Maybe it is, but I think that you look at this tournament. Because players like Hydra and Polt didn't fall off last year, despite all of that.
True.
You know, and they had more Koreans that were competitive in those tournaments as well. So for me, I would say a lot of it comes down to you just have those guys that are the threats now. You look at Neeb as a threat. You look at Showtime as threats.
All right, well, thank you very much, boys. We are about to get into our best of 5 here between Hydra and EnDerr. So let's hand it over to Pig and Mr. Valdez.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the caster desk. It's me, Valdez, with Pig, doing actually, I think, our first cast together.
Yeah.
Is that the case? I believe it is.
I think so. I mean,
Wow.
we've been at a few events kind of around together. We've chatted a bit before, but I don't think we've ever commentated, actually. So, yeah.
This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be jumping right into a ZvZ between Hydra and EnDerr, of course, as the nice guys on the desk let you guys know. It is going to be this best of 5 series of ZvZ. Of course, we got the Zerg master here, Pig.
Oh, yeah. I guess we should introduce this guy up here. The guy with the awesome haircut representing the Philippines. It is EnDerr. Caviar, such a stylish guy.
Yeah, he's got a stylish name, too. They were attempting to pronounce that on the desk. And down here in the bottom right, in the blue, from Korea himself, it is Hydra.
Of course, Hydra's a big favorite here. Goes without saying, representing OSC Root. And someone who's been pretty damn solid in ZvZ throughout the year. You know, really, if we think of his big defeats and his big events, it has been in ZVP most of the time. So he's looked very solid in this matchup. And oh man, oh my god, what?
Well,
what? Oh my god, EnDerr.
What a way to start off the series. I mean, we were talking to him. He didn't seem super confident coming into this match. I don't know a lot of players who would be confident going up against Hydra outside of some guys like Neeb, stuff like that. But EnDerr was like, I don't know, man. I'm just going to give it my all, see what happens. And this is a good way to start it. Go very greedy and hope Hydra just does not scout your third base.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted more time to talk about EnDerr as a player at the start of this match, but it looks like his build choice is going to do the talking for me. He throws out these wacky builds. He does these sort of strange things, which you don't see a lot of other players do, but this makes perfect sense. If there's a map to 3H before pool, it's this one. The Overlord will come across, see the hatchery at the natural, and be like, oh, cool, you've gone hatchery first. And especially because Hydra's not building a pair of Zerglings. I think he's completely skipped it out.
Oh boy.
And that means he's not going to be going across the map for scouting. He's just going to rely on this Overlord. And that Overlord is going to take a long time before it actually realizes there's been such a fast third hatchery go down.
Yeah, and this is a great map for him to start off on. As you were saying, going for a build like this, going to be hidden for quite a while. And they're going to do the same kind of scouting pattern here, see if Hydra did something similar. But in fact, it's going to be a very fast lair out of Hydra off the 2 base.
Wow, really ballsy, completely skipping Zergling speed. He does see the creep there at the 3rd. I don't think that was what triggered it, though. I'm pretty sure Hydra was just planning to do this 2-base tech build. He's loved this build ever since even Katowice, he was doing it there against Snoot. He's someone who just loves to go up to roaches, open up the potential for spy attack as well. But EnDerr, with the 3-base economy, is going to have the potential to jump ahead in economy.
Yeah, for sure. We see a little skirmish here that, in fact, EnDerr was getting the better of until he took that last fight. Going to be a trade 1-for-1. And we do see the safe baneling nest coming down here from EnDerr. What do you think? He really needs to get some kind of scouting information on what Hydra's doing here as well, as his Overlords haven't really gone into the main or seen much at all outside of those 2 Zerglings. So what do you think is the follow-up here from EnDerr? I mean, just play it a bit safe?
I think the problem here for EnDerr is he doesn't have that information. You hit the nail on the head there, Brendan. I mean, he needs to really just drone up really hard or go completely all in. And it looks like completely all in might be the choice, but this could just be defensive. I mean, think about it from EnDerr's point of view. All he knows is that he's upper base, and usually he's expecting the opponent to see the 3rd hatchery and try to punish it, but right now, I think Hydra's just going for roach speed. He's building roaches. He's going to be able to deflect these Zerglings, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he should be able to. He's got a nice wall set up here. And this little attack, it's not going to kill the queen, but it does see the amount of roaches that are coming out here too, as well as both the Evo Chamber and the Roach Warren upgrading. So he kind of has a better idea of what's going on here.
But he's already committed to so many Zerglings that EnDerr here is making a desperate decision. He's saying, I've already built so many Zerglings, I can't do anything with them. Let's go all in. But the Overlord, I think the Overlord just spotted that. There's an Overlord on the north side of the map. It caught those Zerglings just barely, and now Hydra knows these Lings are coming across the map. He's non-stop producing roaches, and look at this. This is desperation from EnDerr. He's just massing Banelings, massing Zerglings, not adding any drones, and he's going to try to overwhelm these roaches, but I mean, the only way this works is if Hydra gets completely surrounded, the Banelings get the perfect connections. As long as Hydra avoids that, he's going to be okay.
And you do see that the Overlord of EnDerr did spot these roaches coming across the map, so EnDerr does have a decent shot to go for some kind of surround. It looks like he's going to go for a run-by, in fact, and the spine does not get up, and he gets into the natural here.
Nice, a Queen going down, already splitting Zerglings into the main base as well. Going to start picking off these drones in the natural. EnDerr is very good at focus firing with those Zerglings. He's so good with the multitasking once the game gets messy. This is EnDerr's dream position in terms of kind of trying to throw Hydra off, but Hydra's patiently coming back. He's not going to let those Banelings morph. He's going to clean it up. And I think Hydra, he's still stable for the moment. He's still up a couple of workers, and now +1 has kicked in for those roaches. They're going to kill those Zerglings in 2 shots now.
Yeah, not only that, but like EnDerr is so far behind on his tech. If we take a look at the upgrades, he's down that +1. He's only making Zerglings. He doesn't even have a lair. He's essentially just staying on Ling Bane here for so long, and he's going to be going up, as you said, against these +1 roaches. Hydra now moved across the map here, wants to put on some damage.
Yeah, it looks like these roaches, they're spread out a little bit. That's a huge Zergling count. These Banelings, they're going to find some decent connections here. Going to kill these roaches, and that's actually a pretty good cleanup for EnDerr, but it's still very expensive. Those Banelings don't resurrect themselves. They're a one-shot unit, and we see down here a bit of a counterattack being deflected as well. Still, Hydra survives on 3 bases. He's up 10 workers, and EnDerr, he still hasn't really used the 3rd base. He's at 28 workers. I mean, it's desperation mode for him, and I think Hydra's recognized the situation, right? He's just got to lock the hatches down.
Yeah, and you can see that. Look at the 3rd base here of Hydra, already at about half health. That's the main target here for EnDerr. And he did see those roaches move away, so he wants to poke here a bit. Hydra needs to be defending this 3rd right now.
Oh, a huge Zergling run-by coming into the natural at the same time. Is EnDerr going to go for the surround? No, there's just too many roaches. He's going to go for the hatch snipe, but he's going to lose so many Zerglings in the process, and only down at 32 workers. I don't think Hydra even cares. I think he's just hungry for it. He knows he's got this big ball of roaches. He doesn't want to give EnDerr time. He's just going to attack across that map, defend his natural behind it, and I think he should be in a really good position to take this game out.
I mean, that unit tab pretty much tells the story here. There were nearly as many roaches as Lings on the map here. Also up about 25 supply, and with the +1 roaches moving out across the map, EnDerr is putting up a bit of a flimsy defense at this point.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of Ravagers trying to morph, but look at this force. It's so tiny. Roach speed is kicked in, +1 range is kicked in as well. Hydra, decisive as ever, recognizing his advantage. He's going to push in here and just overwhelm this poultry defense.
Yeah, gonna play it safe, not gonna full-on engage here. EnDerr getting a bit of a surround, but again, these Lings are going to be going down pretty fast with the +1 on those roaches. Ravagers in the back doing a nice bit of damage, but now that the rest of Hydra's army comes in here, this should be the first game going over to Hydra.
Yeah, as those defensive roaches rejoined, of course, pursuing the Zerglings of EnDerr, they're going to shut that down. A very decisive Game 1 victory there for Hydra.
There you go. So EnDerr throwing out the crazy, wacky builds, wacky, crazy EnDerr, but did not. It kind of caught Hydra off guard, but he responded to it pretty well at the end of it all.
Yeah, I feel like Hydra's build was kind of good against the follow-up that EnDerr chose. Like, imagine if EnDerr kind of knew that Hydra played this sort of style. I feel like he could have maybe just poked with the Overlord, said, you know what, I think you're just going to do that sort of gasless style. Like, and if he could make that call, it's a very risky call to make. He could have just built drones, gone up to roaches himself and been like, hey, I've got an extra hatchery. I've got my drones spread out across more minerals. And that's when the 3 hatch has time to really take off. But Hydra was so safe. Like, he just went +1 roach speed and just straight into roach production. And EnDerr was like building those probably defensive oriented Zerglings. And then he's like, wait, I've already built heaps of them. The Baneling Nest is useless in this position. I guess I just tried to do an all-in, and then the Overlord on the top spotted it, and it all just kind of went downhill from there. Like, you're always in a desperate spot.
You were talking about how there were essentially 2 options for him, either go fully all-in or play defensive and drone up, and he kind of went down the middle path and then eventually was forced into going all-in. It just didn't look like he had a specific plan afterwards, and he also did not have the information that we were talking about. He didn't know what Hydra was doing, and definitely was feeling the heat, maybe a bit of nerves coming into game number 1. Just wanted to put on that pressure, perhaps catch Hydra off guard. But Hydra solid as a rock, solid as ever.
You know, it's actually a really good style that Hydra showed us there, the 2-base tech build. It doesn't give you as much flexibility but it shuts down a lot of these weird options like what EnDerr was doing. Now, if EnDerr's playing against a player who does a more standard opening, say Hydra goes for a third base, he's kind of stretched out a bit more. Imagine, Roach is trying to defend both bases, or Hydra would have to go his own banelings, and that's where the extra lava on the third base really helps for EnDerr. He can get momentum going. But because Hydra just limited the angles which EnDerr could attack from, EnDerr could never really get the chaos going. And I didn't get a chance to talk about it too much before, but as someone who's played many, many games against EnDerr, I mean, I was just looking at our Ligulac. We've played like hundreds of games versus each other. He's a guy who, not necessarily the most technical like macro player, but the moment the game devolves into like chaotic, dirty ZvZ situations, he becomes a god. Like he switches on and he multitasks everything perfectly. But Hydra just never gave him that chance.
Yeah, and it looks like that's definitely his comfort zone, as you're saying. He kind of wanted to force it down that path by going for the all-in, trying to get into Hydra's head, perhaps go for a run by, force Hydra into a position where Hydra's not comfortable. But he did say pretty fair in that match. So, guys, we're going to be jumping into game number 2 here. It is going to be on Frozen Temple, 2-player map once again for the ZvZ.
Hydra looking focused as ever there. Of course, taking a quick map 1 victory. The ZvZ, though, is volatile as ever, and you absolutely never take your opponent for granted.
Yeah, very, very true. Getting a nice little shot here. I love the red versus blue kind of theme we got going on here. But let's introduce these players. Up in the top left, in the red, it is EnDerr.
And facing off against him in the bottom right-hand side of Frozen Temple, representing OSC Root, it is Hydra.
And Hydra, cheeky as ever, 2-player map. He takes a good win on that first one, and he's going for a 12 pool.
Yeah, Hydra loves the tempo, loves the aggression. He does this in ZVP as well with mixed results, but in Zerg vs. Zerg on Frozen Temple, this makes perfect sense. It's a short rush distance map. He's looking to take advantage of preferably a hatchery first build, but interestingly, EnDerr's gone for a pool first, which means he will have the option to get Zerglings out. So it's going to come down to micro here. Definitely Hydra puts on the tempo, puts on the aggression. EnDerr's job is going to be to defend that hatchery, take a decent trade, just buy time, pull down drones if he has to micro against that, get a queen down there. While Hydra here, he's not going all in. He's just going to build 10 Zerglings. He's going to pressure. He's going to try to cancel the hatch, try to take good trades, but it all comes down to micro.
Yeah, for sure. And we were talking about how perhaps EnDerr didn't have the best information on how Hydra likes to play on King Sejong Station, or just in general in ZvZ. But here on this map, going for the safe pool first into the hatch, he is definitely going to be in a better spot, as you were saying. Hydra taking the long way around here, does not want to have this scouted.
Yeah, really doesn't want to show his hand too early. Unfortunately for him, EnDerr already built 6 Zerglings blindly, and he's actually checking for it as well.
Wow.
EnDerr gets the early warning here. He's just going to take a Ling versus Ling trade. It's actually going to go well in EnDerr's favor. He is going to take it out with 1 almost full hit point Zergling surviving. Very well done by EnDerr, and this just takes the wind out of Hydra's sails. I mean, this opening is meant to take a favorable trade. It's meant to force drones off the line down here to defend. Instead, he's like, well, I killed less of your Zerglings, and I committed to mine earlier. This is a really bad opening for Hydra.
This is either a soul read of Hydra where he's like, no, I just feel it. I know you're going for this 12 pool. I know you're going to, go for this early pool. Or it's, maybe Hydra does this a lot on this map. Maybe it's very readable. Maybe he's done his research. And either way, EnDerr is going to get a great lead here in this game. It's not going to be a huge one, but a nice little chunk of a lead, especially after the way that first game went. He definitely needs this right now up against Hydra.
Absolutely. I mean, looking at the supply, you think it's pretty similar, but there's a few workers up for EnDerr. And not just that, gas. He's way ahead in the gas. He's now starting his Zergling speed when gas hasn't even started mining for Hydra. So EnDerr, similar to game 1, has more flexibility, but oh my gosh. Zergling's getting in here.
You said it best, Pig. This is not the position you want to be in. Ling's kind of out there on the map. Does not get the block on the ramp with either the 2 queens. He takes a trade here.
Let's see Zerglings get surrounded, though. Hydra's really happy with that. Hydra making a lot happen with just a few Zerglings here. The first wave of pressure might not have done everything, but now he comes in, gets a good trade, kills 2 drones, gets full scouting, sees that Zergling speed's on the way. And, that's got to give Hydra a little bit more momentum, trying to catch back up in this game.
Yeah, for sure. We did see an Overlord actually sniped out there, so Hydra going to be supply blocked here for quite a bit as he is making those 2 Overlords, but shouldn't take too much wind out of his sails here. And I feel like with that, well, say what you want to say. What are you going to say about this?
I just got excited. Zergling speed just got cancelled.
Oh, wow.
And we actually see EnDerr, is he just going to do the same build that Hydra's doing, just with the third base? I think he is. Oh, okay. Look how much gas he's got banked up. So
yeah.
EnDerr's just saying, I'm not going to... He's kind of learning from game one, right? Like he's saying, in that game, I kind of just stuck with the Ling speed. They didn't achieve a lot. And I think now he's identified with his Overlord. This is just a gasless build. And he's saying, I'm just going to play your game, but with the faster third hatch. So I like this adjustment out of EnDerr.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. You can tell he's a very cerebral player, a thinking guy who's like, okay, what am I going to do in each situation? He's not like a robot that's like, okay, this is the build, now I'm ahead, now I get speed, now I go into this. He's really trying to think one step ahead of Hydra here. And with that Overlord that did go down, that Hydra did lose, he's not going to have too much scouting on the opposite side of the map. He's got one near that third base, but I don't believe he's seen this coming down just yet.
Yeah, both players without that much vision, they've both done a good job of killing each other's Overlords, and especially Hydra actually killed a few of EnDerr's Overlords at a really crucial timing, allowing him to get a nice little drone lead here temporarily. And that's a good boost. You know, he doesn't have the third hatchery, but the question is, does it matter? Is EnDerr actually going to be able to defend and use that third hatchery? We see Hydra now moving out to take his own one, and he's got those roaches already under production. He's already up 6 roaches to none. EnDerr's production is starting now as well, but EnDerr's going to be just slightly behind in those upgrades. You know, the +1 slightly behind. Roach speed has started for Hydra, hasn't started for EnDerr. And I think we're going to see a little bit of a roach war here. It's going to get a little bit exciting.
Little bit of roaches in here, piggy.
It's going to get exciting, man.
This is going to be a lot of fun, and I wonder, you know, Hydra sees this, right? He sees the third base coming down sooner, but he can also get into the main, get a little bit of information on exactly where EnDerr's tech is at. What do you feel like the focal point for Hydra is? When does he want to attack? Does he want to try to line it up with his +1 in speed? Does he know that it's ahead right now? Or does he want to just wait it out, you know, go for the later game? He knows he's got a later third base, but you know, I'm sure he's confident in his macro game here, his mechanics over EnDerr at this point.
Well, he's done a really good job scouting with that Overseer. Hydra really keeping tabs on the worker lines and saying, how many workers do you actually have? Seeing that EnDerr's not really using the third, I think Hydra says, there's no pressure for me to attack right now. I am actually droning up my third as it gets close to finishing. We're on pretty similar worker counts. In fact, Hydra's actually slightly ahead. So he's going to play, you know, very defensively for the moment. What's interesting here, though, is in Roach vs. Roach, in Legacy of the Void, often Spire comes into play and we see that muta swap. And it's going to be interesting. Do either of these players go for that? Or do they just try to keep the Roach fights going kind of constantly enough and just stop the other guy from ever getting the breathing room to go in that transition?
Well, for now, we have both players going into +2 for missile weapons on the ground. So it looks like they do want to commit here to the Roaches for the time being. Do see EnDerr now making a big swell of drones himself as Hydra looks to push across the map, but on a map like this, Rosen Temple, you never really want to push up this ramp. The enemy Zerg is going to get that perfect concave. There's even a spine there. He's going to have the defensive advantage, can bring all of his queens over to defend as well. And I feel like Hydra's just poking here, trying to get a bit more information. He definitely does not want to engage up this ramp.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised that neither player is trying to transition because it is just so hard to make Roach vs. Roach work aggressively on this map. I mean, you can start to counterattack. There are 3 paths that are very far apart, but that only really opens up once your opponent's on 4 bases. At this stage of the game, it really is just front on, you're going in the choke point. You're going to take a really unfavorable trade, but both players seem very focused on not dying. Of course, if you don't commit a lot to Roaches, your opponent might just YOLO in up there. The Roaches just hug you and you get overwhelmed in an instant. So both players playing very carefully right now, and it's looking like an identical mirror match, really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we really do have to focus on just how much scouting Hydra has done during this match. You were talking about scouting the drone lines. He's got multiple overseers going in and around. There's even one above the army of EnDerr. Really just wants to keep a very, very close eye on exactly how many units are there, what is the position, what can I take advantage of at different points in the game. Unfortunately, he loses an overseer there, not paying attention.
Yeah, both players are really hunting each other's overlords and overseers this game, trying to shut down each other's vision. But here we see that tech transition we were talking about. Spire going down for Hydra. He's not committing as much to Roaches. I mean, you can see he's still building them. But as that Spire gets really close to finishing, he's just going to pause production, only keep building Roaches if EnDerr's really like pushing into him very hard. And once he gets about 8 or 10 mutas out, he has a huge advantage. Like, EnDerr just won't be able to use Ravagers aggressively because they'll get focused down. And suddenly EnDerr will get put in a very awkward position. So EnDerr EnDerr really needs to make something happen. His +2's finishing, he's moving into position. He does have a pretty good army supply lead right now. He's making more Ravagers. He needs to make something happen in the next 30 seconds. After that, Mutalisk is going to join the fray.
Exactly. This is the timing he has to hit, and he's identified it. He wants to go in onto this fight. He needs to group up his army first. Hydra in a decent spot here. Got a nice concave down at the bottom of the ramp, and EnDerr is hesitating a bit to take this fight.
And look at this, just zoning space. This is all Hydra's doing right now. He's looking for the good angle. He's using Corrosive Bile to stop EnDerr closing with him, and now he's almost caught up in that army supply. He's got his own roaches out. Upgrades are identical, and Hydra just wants to use defensive positioning, make sure he's safe, and we're going to start to see him add those mutas in once he pushes this attack back.
For sure, you can see him just pumping roaches for now only, and just trying to get that defensive advantage here with that concave, grab his queens, get ready for the defense. Even though he does have slightly less roaches, they have both maxed out at this point, and EnDerr is really struggling to find an angle here.
Yeah,
and all
this
the while,
really
I mean, there's a Spire all behind this, as you were saying.
I mean, the pressure has stopped Hydra from building the mutas. He's making sure he doesn't die, and now he's maxed out, so he can't build the mutas. So it's kind of worked, but it all comes down to this Roach versus Roach battle. Who's going to take the favorable trade? EnDerr getting very aggressive. Good dodges, though. Hydra's Bile's not really landing. The Hydra with a very good concave, fantastic positioning so far, and both players really just dancing back and forwards here. So far, it looks like a very even trade. Of course, EnDerr, though, he is getting on top of some of those Ravages. Some very nice micro out of EnDerr here, and I think he might actually be able to push through. He's overwhelming. He's taking a slightly favorable trade. I think he might be able to get some damage done.
This is pretty huge. He takes the fight. It looks like Hydra does have more reinforcements, though, coming from both the main and the natural, and this is going to push EnDerr back, and that's that defensive advantage we were talking about. He wasn't really able to, get any kind of damage after winning the fight there. Wasn't able to take out a hatchery, didn't get many drones, and now he's just forced to back off. And where do we stand in this game? Immediately, 10 mutas come out, just as you were saying.
Yeah, and that's going to be so tough to deal with. I mean, mutas have such mobility. We see Hydra's on the way for EnDerr, but he's got to protect his economy. And as he's got to take the 4th base at this stage, how do you spread across all these bases? He's going to need spore crawlers as well, and he's already at a drone deficit. So squeezing out spores, each one chews up a drone, it chews up 75 minerals. This is going to be a very tight defense for EnDerr. He needs to have his units in the perfect positions, or Hydra's just going to get out of control. He's going to be hitting from all sorts of angles.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he has to know at this point. He is going to see the mutas coming across here just now. His actions did lead us to believe that he had some idea this was on the way, especially with the Hydra transition. He's going to just snipe a bunch of these Overseers, though, that he has not pulled back. And it looks like he still does have 200 max supply there, so he is okay for now. But these mutas definitely going to be looking for that damage here on the map.
Yeah, it looks like, interestingly, Hydra's not trying to attack up further. He's using these mutas to force an awkward position for EnDerr. EnDerr has to commit to spores. He has to commit to all these other things. But they're, oh, nice. Actually going to be picking off a muta very quickly there. Hydra not finding an opening just yet. EnDerr's defense has been good. And the army with the Hydras backing it up is barreling down the front. We're seeing it engage down here. EnDerr's going for the throat. Hydra's force is actually looking pretty bare bones right now. I don't know if he's got enough to deal with the damage output from these Hydras.
Yeah, look at this. The better concave also going over to EnDerr. And with those Hydras in the back with the DPS. But look at this. More reinforcements coming from the bottom side of that hatchery. And he is going to be able to push EnDerr back. And he wants to take this fight here on the ramp.
Oh, the Corrosive Bile crushing the Hydralisks in the center of that Zerg ball. And it looks like EnDerr's army is going to be overwhelmed. The Roach Ravager defense is good. Hydra, though, does lose his Mutalisks at the same time, but look at the supply lead. He's got so many more units after that, taking that perfect defensive engage. As you said, when those units came in from the south side, they just crushed the army of EnDerr. And now Hydra's in a very commanding position.
Yeah, for sure. We did forget to mention that Hydra also does have the +1 to Carapace here, so that upgrade definitely helping him out a bit there in that fight, especially with how fast those Ravagers and the Hydras do attack. But here we go, coming in for the engage now. Hydra with the much bigger army just needs to find that angle and make sure he doesn't get hit by a big Corrosive Bile ball here.
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be a defense of Corrosive Bile. That's all EnDerr has working for him. His units are just so low in number right now. The Hydras are getting on top, getting just obliterated. The Ravagers are going down. And Hydra here, on top of everything, shuts down the army of EnDerr.
GG, there you go. Hydra gonna take game number 2. Very dominating fashion. It was pretty close there in the mid-game, but it did seem like Hydra was in control for most of that game.
Really balanced play from him there. You know, he was so patient, and I think he was just scouting so well throughout it, making sure no curveballs from EnDerr could really come to fruition. I think I got to say, though, I mean, I talked about how EnDerr thrives in chaos, but he was just playing very straight up there, very like, let's just hit the front with a big Roach Ravager timing. Something which he really is good at is using tunneling claw harassment. I would have loved to see him mix in something like that. Go do something a little bit crazy, throw Hydra off his game, and you know, even if your opponent gets mutas out, if you've got Roaches burrowing into all of their bases, it's really awkward for them to defend. So I think EnDerr's just got to, he's got to kind of gather himself here. Don't get thrown off by the fact that you're down 2 matches, and he's got to try to throw something out that's going to mess up Hydra's game plan, that creates chaos, because that is where he thrives as a player.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the next map is going to be Galactic Process here. Bit of a bigger one. We'll see if he can throw in some forks into Hydra's play, just trying to poke him out here, perhaps. Hydra looking calm as ever. I feel like he was pretty confident coming into this matchup.
Yeah, Hydra's such a veteran these days. Like, even when he's up against the players who he's got a bad record against, he just looks very calm out there. He knows his builds. I mean, he's been a pro gamer since forever. And he just kind of always knows how to gather himself after a loss, how to, you know, not just get too excited after a win. He kind of keeps himself very contained until the series is over. And I think Galactic Process is going to be an interesting map because it is new. We haven't seen too many games on it. But what we've seen is there's a lot of counter-attack paths. Like, there's those back rocks, which are kind of, there's this huge path into your natural, and you can't really defend the rocks very easily. So that might come into play. And even just generally in the mid-game, there's so many paths across the middle of this map. Like, it gets really weird in terms of where do you take your third base and where do you push each other. Sometimes armies end up crossing and just kind of base trading a lot on this map. It's a really kind of funky map.
So would you say going into this one that EnDerr's got an advantage on a map like this? Or do you feel like Hydra, he's kind of known for practicing a ton. He's probably played hundreds of games on this map already in preparation for this tournament. What are you feeling going into this third game?
Yeah, I mean, I think if EnDerr can keep it together mentally, it does play to his strengths. If they end up in that same sort of game like last one, you know, get the multi-prong going, use your multitasking. But Hydra's looking so confident. He's up 2 games. He's got to be feeling good. And the pressure here for EnDerr is enormous. Remember, EnDerr has qualified for, I believe, Premier Leagues before. He's qualified for lots of tournaments, but he's been just stopped by visa issues at so many tournaments. He was meant to be at Valencia, couldn't get his visa sorted there, ended up being replaced by Probe. He's been qualifying for a lot of tournaments recently, and finally he's got one where, okay, he's got a visa, he's here, he's actually allowed to play at one of these opportunities. So it's always hard when you face EnDerr in the Hydra, in the first round. You know, you're down 2 maps. Like, you can see it on his face, can't you?
Yeah, you really can. I mean, he's feeling the pressure. He's looking a little bit like Drogo after he was down 0-2 as well, where it's kind of these eyes that tell the story. You look into them and you're like, wow, he just looks really depressed. Like, he's really feeling the pressure coming into this one. You know, he's picking at his hands. He's nervous, kind of slouched over. Not generally the body language you want to be seeing coming into a Game 3 when you're down 0-2. But again, I mean, being a pro gamer is not an easy job, and I'm sure you would know a lot about that, Pig.
Yeah, you know, I think it's one of these moments where you're like, I finally get the chance to live out my dreams. You know, EnDerr's been playing for a long time, and I can guarantee you he has had dreams where he's up on that stage holding that trophy.
Yeah.
You know, especially from a guy from the smaller region, you know, Southeast Asia, just winning the first round would be massive for EnDerr, especially against Hydra. So when you kind of get this chance to be on that stage, it's kind of surreal. It's like you stepped into your dream and you're like, I can make it a reality. And when things don't go your way, it really can throw you off your game. It can tilt you a little bit. But I mean, the champions, they're the guys who can gather it together. They're the guys who, in this most important of moments, they can just bring themselves together and still play like it's their very best game.
So guys, we are going to be jumping into Galactic Process here for game number 3. We're going to have to see if Hydra can close it out 3-0 or if EnDerr can stage a comeback coming into this game. Let's introduce our players. Down in the bottom left, in the red, down 0-2, it is EnDerr.
And his opponent spawning in the top right-hand side, playing as the blue Zerg and representing OSC Root, it is Hydra.
Calm as ever, just tapping away at that keyboard. Sure, he's got a plan for this one. Not going to go for any crazy early pressure this time around. Both players just going to go for a hatch first, and we'll have a little gentleman's agreement to start off the game.
Yep, they both had a cup of tea before their armies are going to collide on the hilltop. you know, just fighting for a kilometer or so of each other's space platform here. Very 17th century style. Of course, it's interesting because EnDerr did tell me he's been practicing with True a lot for this. True's a very cerebral, smart player, but what I gathered from that practice and from what EnDerr was saying is that he felt like Hydra's unpredictable, he's aggressive, and as a result, he didn't plan any all-ins. He said, I just didn't plan any cheeses. I thought they'd be too unreliable. I've got openings planned for the maps, but I don't have a crazy all-in. So it definitely looks like EnDerr, he's playing you know, more kind of passive defensive openings, and we see something crazy once again. Third hatchery going down already.
Here we go. I mean, this is one of the openings you were talking about. It's interesting that you talk about EnDerr's feelings about Hydra's play, where he's so unpredictable. He can do anything at any time. He could 12 pull you. He could, you know, just one base, speed lane, bailing all in you. He could go for 3 hatches first. I don't know. He doesn't know either. So this is kind of the feel I get from some of the better Zergs over in Korea as well. You look at Dark, you look at Su, guys who can just like turn on the pressure just like that at the snap of a finger, and you never know when it's going to snap off. So it really does put the fear into the opponent's hearts at that. And even just from that one conversation you were talking about, I feel like EnDerr is feeling a bit of that going up against Hydra here.
Absolutely. You know, StarCraft isn't just a game where you battle the game. It's definitely a part of it. It's trying to play perfect, but you got to play your opponent. You got to make them uncomfortable. Hydra's a master of that. And here in game number 3, up 2 games, he's playing completely standard. After a couple of very different openings, he's like, you know what? Back to the very typical stuff. Hatch gas pool, get a Baneling Nest. He's going to go for a 3rd base. And this plays out pretty decently. You know, EnDerr's got the faster 3rd hatch, but it's not like it's a massive advantage. His Zergling speed's going to be way delayed, so we are going to see a kind of funky dynamic. If Hydra switches on the aggressive switch behind this 3rd hatch, he could actually do very well because there's no Zergling speed on the way for EnDerr. I mean, how does EnDerr defend 3 bases?
Yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting. We do see Hydra himself, the second he does scout the 3rd base, he just goes ahead and lays down his own 3rd base. Again, just playing it a bit standard. He's going to make 6 lings, see if he wants to pressure at all. He's making 1 Baneling somewhere on the map. Not sure.
Just 1 forward Baneling just north
of
the ramp. And EnDerr's just playing this like a gasless 2-base build, just with an added 3rd hatch squeeze in there. And this is EnDerr to a T. He likes to cut corners. He likes to kind of do these slightly odd, greedier builds. And if he gets away with it, he's in a fantastic position. And I'll tell you what, 6 Zerglings and a Baneling, not the most scary pressure. This is not something that's going to shut down his build. So yes, EnDerr's forced into the extra Evo chamber to wall off, but otherwise things are going fantastically for him. He's got the 3rd hatch up. He's down a couple drones, but he's going for the lair. You know, with the double Evo chamber, he's going to be able to start double upgrades. I think EnDerr's very happy with where he is right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much even on tech at this point. You can even call him ahead with the Evo chambers, as you were saying. He's ahead on bases. He's, you know, now ahead even on drones, and he's got a really nice defensive setup. So, again, you know, kind of similar to game number 2, he's in a position where he's ahead. But can he, you know, push that into the mid-game, into the late game, and actually win a game here against Hydra?
This is really interesting. He's actually starting up a very late Zergling speed, EnDerr that is. And I think with this lair, he might actually be going for muters. So it looks like it's kind of the fake roach setup. You know, your opponent sees double Evo, they see the roach roar, and they think, oh yeah, you're going to be going for roaches. And then I think he's just going to drop a Spire, go into these surprise muters, and because Hydra might not realize that, he might just be completely caught off guard, and that could be a huge win for EnDerr. I like this move from him. Interestingly, though, Hydra goes for the Spire first, so it looks like Hydra also has that same Mutalisk option on his mind.
Yeah, no Spire just yet. There it is. It looks like he was a bit delayed on that. The lair was up for about 10-15 seconds. I mean, just looking at everything he was doing, that was exactly the plan for EnDerr. You hit the nail on the head, but just a little bit late on that. And Hydra is, okay, he's actually just going to go ahead and cancel that as the Overseer comes in.
Oh, EnDerr trying to kind of play some mind games here, but like, what's your plan here?
And he remakes it.
He remakes it. It's hidden in the top left. He's got to shut down that Overseer before it gets up there. His queens aren't shooting the Overseer. And it's gonna go right towards that Spire. Oh my gosh, he's delayed his Spire by so long, cost himself a whole lot of money, and Hydra sees it. Oh, EnDerr's got to feel his heart sinking right now. And did he see the Spire? I believe he did. Yeah, he saw that. So, I mean, he knows the situation he's in right now, and he's like, oh god, I'm so far behind in the muta count. He's massing Zerglings. He's got to try and buy time. He's got to get over to Hydra's side of the map and make something happen with these Zerglings, because right now things are not looking good.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the worst feelings as a gamer, where you cancel your tech trying to hide it from your opponent and you remake it so it's so late, but then he scouts it anyway. and then you scout that he's got the same tech in a mirror matchup, so you're even that much farther behind. He really needs to get some kind of damage done on this map with these lings, and he's going to try to come in here to the natural, trying to snipe that queen. Nice position there, getting a bit of damage, but the mutas are going to pop out here. Only the queen will go down. Some of these drones are going to take some damage, but after all, not the biggest amount of damage. And look at this!
Oh, nice counterattack here from Hydra. EnDerr slightly slow to respond, but doesn't lose anything, just a single drone. EnDerr's on top of it for the moment. And, you know, so far, not too bad. He did get that queen in that natural, but it could have been a lot worse for Hydra. And remember, Hydra's got the 4th base. He's already got the double gas there. He knows that a muta war is all about the gas count. It's all about the mutas. And, oh, he's getting great damage here on the Zerglings. Hydra getting a very good amount of momentum. If he ends up with the advantage in the Zerglings and the mutas, then it'll just be over so quickly. EnDerr's mutas are only just popping. He's way behind in his flyer carapace as well. He's got to just turtle up here, try to secure this 4th base and defend. But Hydra's got map control, and his mutas are just finding heaps of free damage right now.
It just looks like a bit of desperation, to be honest, out of EnDerr. You know, he's trying to take fights in the middle of the map that are just not going his way. Now he's trying to take this muta fight, but his mutas get not all clumped up together.
And Hydra's counterattacking in the bottom as well at the same time. EnDerr caught completely off guard, and oh, Hydra is all over the place right now. EnDerr's taking massive damage. The mutas fly back in on the top left-hand side. Hydra's ready to take that muta battle. His carapace hasn't quite finished, but he's got the muta count. It doesn't matter. He's going to start raining down death on these overlords, these drones, his Zerglings. Shut down the mining on the 3rd base at the same time. And EnDerr, he is falling apart right now. He's got to try and stabilize. He's got to hang on. He's going to send a Zergling counter across the map. That could be the beginning of getting a bit of momentum. He's got to pull Hydra home. He needs to buy time for himself.
He needs to get some kind of damage over here. But again, Hydra, just with the safety, comes back. He scouts this out. He's not going to take any damage. And, you know, now ahead of the muta count, he's got that extra 4th base coming in here. Has the +1 to air attack here as well. And now he's going to catch these mutas in the middle of the map, trying to snipe one. EnDerr is smart here to back off, knows he can't quite take this fight here, but he is going to take some losses.
And he's down not only the upgrade, but 8 Mutalisks right now. So even though his flyer carapace is about to catch up, he's way down in that Mutalisk count. His Zerglings are barely keeping up with Hydra's. And once again, Hydra's in that aggressive position. He wants to force the trade. He's going to take it. The mutas get right on top of EnDerr's, and he's just forcing that engagement. The Zerglings for EnDerr a little bit slow to get there to absorb that bounce damage. And they are finally there absorbing a few of the glaives, but it's too little too late. There's just too many Mutalisks for Hydra. He's right in between the rally points, and he is going to overwhelm in astounding fashion, shutting down the mutas for EnDerr, and Hydra takes that 3-0.
Very nicely done. Clean sweep there by Hydra, making it look very, very easy. EnDerr kind of falling apart there towards the end, falling down to the might of one of our veterans here at WCS. So looking quite good, solid as ever in ZvZ is Hydra.
As a rock. He's looking great. And I mean, we all expected it to be a relatively one-sided match. Hydra there just showed that he's got experience, he's got form, and he's no stranger to Zerg versus Zerg. EnDerr here, you know, he had a pretty close game too. I think he's got to be proud of that, but just getting Hydra as your first round in the tournament, it's just a tough draw.
It's a tough draw, and he had some nice ideas. It was obvious that he was prepared coming into this one, perhaps trying a little bit too hard to be tricky towards the end.
Yeah.
You know, he was really trying to play some mind games on Hydra, and perhaps it was just a bit of desperation at that point. He was looking okay, though, in the beginning. You know, he got away with the 3rd base, but perhaps some, some bad decisions towards the mid-game of that first game, and it really did not pan out for him.
And Hydra was just looking for that standard game. Like, he was just like, all right, you know, yeah, I'll put on 12 pool game 2, for instance. Like, but game 1 was like, just lock everything down and go roaches with roach speed, like the safest thing you could possibly do. Just wall off on 2 base. And I mean, that's the smart way to play. If you feel you're favored in a matchup, go in there and just play safe and just, you know, get further ahead, do the old Artosis rule, and just kind of play a very safe game, scouting constantly throughout the games. You know, Hydra's so vigilant, his overseers flying through at multiple points in the series. The last game, spotting the spire, spotting the second spire after the first one was cancelled. Like, that was just a fantastic, gameplay out of Hydra. Very solid.
Super clean, super solid. Guys, we're going to take a quick 90-second commercial break. When we come back, we'll go to the interview with Hydra.
Welcome back to IEM Shanghai. We just finished our last match, and with us is our victor. It is Hydra along with Roddy. Hydra, if we look at you nowadays compared to last year, you know, you're still a formidable force, but your results really haven't been as consistent as they used to be. Where's your heart been when it comes to StarCraft?
I think foreigners have been, improved a lot compared to last year, and I practiced, as much as last year, but I don't think I performed well like I did last year. Yeah.
Yeah, you did really well at DreamHack. Took DreamHack Austin, and then you faced Neeb again a couple different times, and you're going to be playing Neeb again in the next series. Are you worried about that, or do you think you're prepared for him?
Actually, I've been losing to him after I won versus him in DreamHack Austin, and I feel like this time is really good. This time is a really good chance for me to, avenge my, win against him.
All right, Hydra, first of all, congratulations, of course, for advancing to the round of 8. It's never easy. You came to the couch, I said, that felt pretty convincing. You're good in ZvZ. You said, I didn't play my best. Why did you feel you didn't play your best? Because it looked pretty good to me.
I think ZvZ is always 50 matchup for me. And I don't know, I think I could have done better than I did. And my ZvZ is, I don't think it's the best at the moment. So yeah, I think I could have done better.
Did you have a lot of information about your opponent? Because I know it can be pretty difficult in a mirror matchup to play against somebody that you maybe not super familiar with.
Actually, I tried to find his, builds and his results in ZvZ, and I couldn't find any. So yeah, it was pretty hard.
All right, I wanted to ask a couple questions about the games real quick. The very first map on King Sejong, he went double hatchery. Did you ever feel like, okay, this could get read as scary? And when did you realize that he was actually not building drones, but just making Zerglings?
Actually, I expected him going like kind of 3 hatchery, greedy build. But I didn't expect like him going just mass Zerglings after he went 3 hatchery. So it was quite like unexpected play by him. But I think I was able to win because I chose Ro16 and he just, he was just making Zerglings only. Yeah.
Do you feel like he was too reckless with his units, or do you think that his build could have worked if he would have found like better engagements or do more damage with the counterattacks?
I think his build could have worked, but I feel like that build is just, YOLO build, just one build.
Yeah, okay. The second map I think was maybe the closest, even though the last one was pretty close too. But there was one moment where he was pushing you pretty hard on Frozen Temple on the south side. Yeah. Your Spire was done, but you didn't dare to make Minilis yet. You kept remaxing on Roaches and Ravagers. Could you talk to our thought process? Like, why did you feel it wasn't the right time for Mutalisk?
I don't know. He pressured so hard, so I couldn't make Mutalisk, and I feel like if I made Muta, then I would have been in danger, I think. So I just chose to, make Roaches.
In the last game, it was kind of funny because he actually cancelled the Spire in his main, and then he rebuilt it on the left top side. Oh. And that's when your overseer saw it. What did you think when you saw that Spire? Did you think like, well, mine is so much faster, I'm already ahead, or were you still kind of worried about the game?
After I checked his Spire, I noticed that my Spire is a little bit faster than his, so yeah, I felt comfortable.
Was there, in the end of the game, when like you had a couple of minor exchanges, you decided to just fly in with all the mutas, you took a fight pretty deep in enemy territory, close to his reinforcements, Queens could have helped out. What made you so sure that you had enough to actually take that fight?
It was actually, I tried to just multitask him, so I sent my links into his third, and I just wanted to attack him at the same time, but I noticed that he's maybe 4 or 5 muta at his third, so I feel like I was ahead in muta counts, so I just attacked.
All right, well, great series, and I can't wait to see your PvZ in the quarterfinals against Neeb. I wish you best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent play. Really glad to talk to you. Thank you for joining us here. That was the last series of the day for us. We're going to send it back to the desk where they'll break it down, and we'll take it from there. See you, Colaris.
You guys went on like forever.
All right, thank you very much, guys, as we have our top, well, not top 4 even, I should say, our first 4 moving on forwards into the round of 8, concluded with Hydra doing very, very well in that game, making a lot of roaches.
Yeah, a lot of roaches. That's what we like about ZvZ.
Yep.
A lot of roaches getting on each other, and and even some transitions in the end with some Mutalisk play. And I guess everybody expected the 3-0, right?
Yeah, there were so many insects going around and fighting and dying and killing stuff that almost felt like this was that horrible movie I saw a while back called EnDerr's Game.
Oh, no,
See
please.
what I did there.
Oh. All right, Funker, well, we have a few clips here from our series as
Game
well.
1, there was that good engagement with the banelings. The roaches were all clumped up and stuck to the wall, but in the end, like the beginning, even the build that Hydra went for with the quick +1 was so strong against the mass Zergling play from EnDerr. This is a pretty important fight where EnDerr actually gets a tiny lead. He gets the eggs with the corrosive bile, but suddenly the Mutal play makes it that he wants to go and he gets surrounded like this and loses the game instantly. So we can see like a little bit later that EnDerr was a little bit annoyed with that game because he actually had a slight lead at some points, but in the end it just falls to the roaches.
Besides map 3 where EnDerr got completely stomped, I think he showed a few good things in map number 1 and 2. Map number 1, the Zerglings surround, the defense, and in map number 2, the fight that we just saw. I thought he might be able to take it from there, but I mean, that game though.
To me, that's like
that was not the best.
tipping points. Like he tries to cancel the Mutal and the Spire, but he gets scouted anyways. And then it's pretty easy to anticipate what's going to happen. You're going to have an upgrade more Mutalisk. And a guy like Hydra never fails to win again like this.
His Mutas were so much scarier than EnDerr there.
Yeah.
Nate, weren't they?
Yeah,
They were.
They really were. There's just great Mutalist play, great control. I mean, what a ZvZ series, right? The greatest common factor of any Zerg versus Zerg match is always the roaches.
Roaches.
And in that final game, I will say, the Mutalisks got to be the flying roaches of that game.
They were.
Literally just sitting there spitting at each other.
They did well. He mutastacked nicely. He at least eluded a little bit of his Mutalisk count for a moment.
That's the next step, is you need to be able to just
stack roaches.
Stack roaches, like you're playing Photon Cannon Defense and Brood War.
A roach flower, if you will.
Yeah, a roach. Exactly.
But what about corrosive bile?
You're onto something here. You're onto something.
Have you missed my laugh? I think you have. All right, of course, we can take a look at the bracket and see exactly what's gone down thus far throughout the day, as we've had 4 best-of-5s so far here for the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai Day number 1. We have Showtime and Massa advancing up towards the top, and towards the bottom we have Neeb going to be going up against Hydra once again,
Hell
boys.
yeah.
Fun times.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're leaving me with, thanks.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. All right, so of course we can take a look at today's games as well in terms of the results that have gone down so far, as we did have Mr. Showtime taking a 3-1 against Ayasonu. Drogo unfortunately falling out for our Frenchman here on the map. Massa will be advancing on. Then we have Neeb 3-0ing Tudming, Hydra 3-0ing EnDerr. Of course, tomorrow's games coming up here for the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai are as follows, as we will have Snoot kicking things off, going up against Euthermal, and we will round down the rest of that round of 16 here, as well as our first quarter final, which will be coming up tomorrow as well. So 5 best-of-5s, I should say, Tom.
Yeah. The first page of the schedule, by the way, was funny because the last series was supposed to start now. But the games went so fast that we finished much earlier. But yeah, great schedule, great matches so far. The 4 players that we had advanced today were the favorites.
Yes.
And we get to see already 2 massive matches in quarterfinals.
I think that what you said right there kind of lays it out, right? Even looking at Days 2 matches, a lot of the favorite players, I personally haven't gotten super behind Massa on the hype train, but considering, everything that you guys especially bring up about Drogo's PVT, I guess it's maybe it wasn't as big of an upset as I would have looked at it. But I think we get the actual big matches when we finally get those guys going up against each other. Obviously Hydra versus Neeb is probably my most looked forward to match in this tournament right now.
When are we going to get upsets?
When are we
When
gonna
Haz is playing, of course.
Oh, I'm ready for that one already. I've been ready for that one for like weeks, to be perfectly honest with you, so that is going to be good for sure. Well, thank you very much, boys. For now, we can close out day number 1 so far as it stands here from the Intel Extreme Masters. Make sure to tune in at 8:45 tomorrow local time. It's an early one, as we get into day number 2 of the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai. For now, it's bye from the desk.